Alien noble dares to mock a human soldier, but one look at his scars silences the room. The incident at Station Nexus. The recycled air of Station Nexus carried the mingled scents of 100 different worlds. Marcus Chen kept his head down as he worked beneath the damaged cargo hauler, his coverall stained with hydraulic fluid and engine grease. 3 months he'd been here. 3 peaceful months of anonymity among the chaos of the galaxy's busiest independent trading post. Station Nexus floated in the neutral zone between 4 major galactic powers, a massive ring structure that rotated slowly against the backdrop of distant stars. No single government claimed it, which made it perfect for those who preferred to avoid attention. Merchants, smugglers, diplomats, and drifters all passed through its corridors, conducting business, best done away from official oversight. Marcus tightened the last bolt on the hauler's drive coupling and slid out from underneath. The Krellian merchant who owned the vessel clicked his mandibles impatiently, his 4 arms crossed in what Marcus had learned was their species' version of annoyance. "Is fixed now, yes?" the merchant asked, his translator giving his words a tinny quality. "Should hold until you can get proper repairs at a shipyard," Marcus replied, wiping his hands on a rag. "But don't push the engines past 60% capacity, and definitely avoid any sharp maneuvers." The Krellian transferred the credits without haggling, a sure sign he was in a hurry to leave. Marcus didn't ask questions. In his experience, curiosity about other people's business tended to shorten one's lifespan in places like this. As the hauler departed, Marcus began organizing his tools. The docking bay was quieter now, most of the morning rush having passed. He preferred it this way. Fewer eyes meant fewer questions about why a human was working as a simple mechanic in the forgotten corner of the galaxy. The cantina on Level 7 was exactly the kind of establishment Marcus usually avoided, but his roommate, a Therian named Spots, had insisted on buying him a drink to celebrate his successful repair of the station's water reclamation system. Turning down free drinks would have seemed suspicious, so Marcus found himself nursing a glass of something green and mildly toxic to humans, while Spots regaled anyone within earshot about the intricacies of waste management. That's when she walked. And the Valoran moved with the fluid grace typical of her species, her skin shifting between shades of deep purple and midnight blue as she navigated through the crowd. Her elongated fingers wrapped around a glass of something that glowed faintly orange, and her large multifaceted eyes scanned the room with the practiced awareness of someone accustomed to dangerous places. Zaraki had been traveling for 3 cycles, her ship's logs would show, running courier jobs along the outer rim. But tonight she was just another spacer looking to forget the endless void between stars. The cantina was packed, forcing her to squeeze between tables and bodies of various species. She'd already had 2 drinks at another bar, and the slight buzz made her movements less careful than usual. Marcus saw the accident coming before it happened. A Gordanian stumbled backward from the bar, directly into Zaraki's path. She tried to sidestep, but her reaction time was compromised. Her drink flew from her hand as she collided with someone behind her, her arms windmilling for balance. Marcus moved without thinking, catching her before she hit the floor. But Zaraki's flailing hands grabbed at anything solid, and her surprisingly strong grip caught the front of Marcus's workshirt. The fabric, already weakened by chemicals and wear, tore completely open with a sound that seemed to echo through the suddenly quiet cantina. Time slowed. Marcus stood frozen. Zaraki still partially supported in his arms, her eyes fixed on his exposed chest. But it wasn't his physique that made her expression shift from embarrassment to shock. It was the scar tissue, a distinctive pattern that covered most of his torso, forming what looked almost like a twisted star chart across his skin. Zaraki's breath caught. Every scout in the Valoran fleet knew those scars. They were shown in classified briefings, whispered about in military academies. Plasma burst scarring from a hegemony weapon, but not just any weapon. Only one type of engagement left marks like that, and only one type of pilot survived them. She began, her voice barely a whisper. Marcus released her and stepped back, his hand moving to close his ruined shirt. Around them, the cantina patrons were beginning to take notice. A few had started recording with their devices, and Marcus could see the recognition dawning on more faces. "Just a mechanic," Marcus said firmly, but his eyes were already mapping exits, calculating distances, evaluating threats. The Gordanian who had caused the collision turned around, his 3 eyes focusing on Marcus's exposed scars. His gray skin paled to almost white. "Shadowwing," he breathed, the universal translator making the fear in his voice clear to everyone present. The name rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Shadowwing, the human pilots who had done the impossible during the Hegemony War, who had flown missions no sane being would attempt, who had, according to legend, turned the tide of battles through sheer incomprehensible human stubbornness. Marcus grabbed his torn shirt, holding it closed as he began backing toward the exit. But Zaraki moved with him, her multifaceted eyes, never leaving his face. "You were at Kepler 442, she said, louder now. "You're the one who flew through the corona." The cantina erupted. Some patrons scrambled for exits, others pressed closer, and several were already transmitting on their communicators. Station security would arrive soon, and with them would come questions Marcus had spent 3 years avoiding. "I need to go," Marcus said to no one in particular, but Zaraki's hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Her skin was cool against his, and he could feel the slight tremor in her grasp. "Wait," she said. "Please, I need to know something." Station security burst through the main entrance, their armor gleaming under the harsh lights. 6 officers, mixed species, all carrying stunners set to maximum. The lead officer, a Bricari with ceremonial scars covering his scaled face, surveyed the scene with professional calm. "Everyone remain where you are," he announced. "We've received reports of a disturbance." His eyes found Marcus, took in the torn shirt and the scars visible beneath, and his hand moved to his weapon. Not drawing it, but ready. "You're coming with us, human," the Bricari said. Spots, who had been silent until now, suddenly stepped between Marcus and the officers. "He hasn't done anything wrong," the Therian protested, his fur standing on end. "It was an accident." "Step aside," the officer commanded, but Spots held his ground. More patrons began to move, some supporting Spots, others simply trying to leave. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Marcus could see it in the officers' stances, the way their fingers twitched near their weapons. Someone was going to get hurt. "I'll come quietly," Marcus said, gently moving Spots aside. "No need for anyone to get hurt." Zaraki still hadn't released his wrist. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Fear? Awe? Something else entirely? "The stories say humans are monsters," she said quietly, meant only for him. "That you're predators who learn to hide among prey. But that's not true, is it?" Marcus met her eyes. In them, he saw the reflection of every battle he'd fought, every impossible odd he'd beaten, every friend he'd lost. But more than that, he saw understanding beginning to dawn. "No," he said simply. "We're something much more dangerous." "What's that?" "We're protectors who'll do anything to save those who can't save themselves." The security officers closed in, and Marcus raised his hands in surrender. But as they led him away, he heard Zaraki's voice carrying over the crowd. "You don't understand," she called out. "You don't understand what they gave up for us. The truth about humanity." The holding cell in station security was deliberately uncomfortable. The bench was too short for most species and too tall for others. The temperature kept just below comfortable, and the lights pulsed at a frequency that induced mild anxiety in most sentient beings. Marcus sat perfectly still, having disconnected from physical discomfort through techniques learned in places far worse than this. 3 hours had passed since the incident at the cantina. They'd confiscated his torn shirt as evidence, giving him a basic station jumpsuit to wear. Through the energy barrier that served as a door, he could hear heated discussions in multiple languages. His translator picked up fragments: shadowwing, war criminal, hero, dangerous, valuable. The barrier flickered, and Zaraki stepped through, followed by the Bricari security chief. She'd changed clothes, now wearing what looked like official Valoran diplomatic attire. The security chief looked deeply unhappy about her presence. You have 15 minutes, the chief growled. Diplomatic immunity only extends so far. He left them alone, though Marcus knew they were being monitored. Zaraki stood awkwardly for a moment before sitting on the bench beside him, maintaining a careful distance. You're not actually a diplomat, Marcus observed. Scout intelligence, she admitted. But the credentials are real enough. I pulled some favors to get in here. Why? She was quiet for a long moment, her skin cycling through various shades of purple and blue. It was, Marcus had learned, how Valorans processed complex emotions. My nest sister was on the colony ship Ethereal Dawn, she finally said. 400,000 Valoran civilians, families, children. When the hegemony attacked, everyone said it was over. No one could reach them in time. Marcus remained silent. He knew where this was going. But then Shadowwing arrived. Zaraki continued. 12 human pilots in ships held together by determination and jury-rigged parts. You flew straight through a solar corona to reach them. A solar corona. The radiation alone should have killed you in seconds. Our ships had modified shielding, Marcus said quietly. Modified, Zaraki laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've seen the technical reports. You wrapped your ships in salvaged hull plating and hoped for the best. 3 of your pilots didn't make it through. 3 good people, Marcus agreed. Torres, Chen, and Volkov, they knew the risks. You saved them all, 400,000 lives. My nest sister's children are alive because 12 humans decided that the laws of physics were more like suggestions. Marcus shifted slightly. We did what needed to be done. And then you disappeared, Zaraki pressed. All of Shadowwing, scattered to the void. Why? You were heroes. Every government in the galaxy wanted to reward you. That's exactly why we had to disappear. Zaraki's eyes narrowed, studying him. Explain. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. What do you know about human history? Our real history? Not the sanitized version in galactic databases? You're a young species. Achieved faster than light. Travel only 2 centuries ago. Considered moderately aggressive but generally cooperative. We're the apex predator of a death world, Marcus corrected. We evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill us. Storms that could strip flesh from bone, predators that hunted in packs, diseases that adapted faster than our medicine. We didn't just survive, we thrived. He stood and began pacing, the small cell limiting his movement. Humans pack bond with anything. We'll befriend predators that could eat us, name our machines, mourn plants that die, but threaten something we've bonded with. He stopped, meeting her eyes. We become something our ancestors would recognize, something that hunted megafauna with sharp sticks and refused to die. That's why you hide, Zaraki said, understanding dawning in her voice. You're afraid of what you are. We're afraid of what we become when pushed, Marcus corrected. During the war, when we saw the hegemony targeting civilians, something ancient woke up in us. Shadowwing wasn't just 12 pilots, we were humanity's rage-given form. The maneuvers you pulled, the risks you took, weren't calculated risks. They were the decisions of a species that would rather die protecting others than live with the failure. Do you know what happened after Kepler 442? Zaraki shook her head. The Galactic Council wanted to study us. Figure out how we did it. Replicate. Several governments offered us positions in their militaries. The hegemony put bounties on our heads, but 3 different criminal organizations offered us even more to work for them. Marcus sat back down, suddenly looking tired. We realized that if we stayed, humanity would become the galaxy's weapon. Every conflict, every war, they'd expect us to do the impossible. And we would. We'd throw ourselves into every fire, save every innocent we could until there were no humans left. Or worse, until we stopped caring about the cost. So you disappeared to protect yourselves? To protect everyone. Humans are at our best when we're mechanics, traders, artists, teachers, normal people living normal lives. But put us in armor, give us a cause, and we become something else. Something that doesn't stop, doesn't retreat, doesn't accept defeat. An alarm suddenly pierced the air. Not the standard station alarm, but the one Marcus had hoped never to hear. The one that meant catastrophic danger. The security chief's voice echoed through the corridors. All personnel, we have multiple breaches. Raider vessels have penetrated station defenses. This is not a drill. The energy barrier of Marcus's cell flickered and died as the station diverted power to shields. Emergency lighting cast everything in a red glow. Through the walls, they could hear explosions, distant but getting closer. Zaraki stood, her skin shifting to a pattern Marcus recognized as fear. The Crimson Talons. They've been threatening the station for months, but security said... Security was wrong, Marcus said, already moving. How many raiders? Reports said at least 40 ships, maybe more. Marcus's expression hardened and Zaraki saw something change in his posture. The mild-mannered mechanic was gone. In his place stood someone who had flown through stars to save strangers. The station has families. Children, Marcus said. It wasn't a question. Thousands of civilians, Zaraki confirmed. Marcus nodded once decisively. Then we stop hiding. He moved to the cell's communication panel, his fingers flying over the controls with practiced efficiency. Instead of calling security, he accessed the maintenance channels, the ones he'd been using for months. This is Marcus Chen, to all maintenance personnel, he said, his voice carrying an authority that made Zaraki's skin shift to patterns of surprise. Code 7. I repeat, Code 7, it's time. Responses came immediately. Voices Zaraki recognized but barely recognized. The janitor from Level 3, the cook from the main cafeteria, the librarian from the education sector. All human. All. Responding with military precision. Thompson here. Engineering secured. Rodriguez. Medical bay standing by. Kim. Auxiliary control online. Petrov. Weapon systems. Well, the ones nobody knew about are armed. Zaraki stared at Marcus. You're all veterans, Marcus finished. Shadow Wing was just the most visible. There are dozens of us on this station. Humans who fought in the war and then tried to disappear into normal lives. Another explosion, closer this time. Through the security, station's windows, they could see raider ships swarming the station's exterior, their weapons pounding against failing shields. But we never really stopped protecting people, Marcus continued, and we just got quieter about it. He turned to leave, then paused. You should get to a shelter. No, Zaraki said firmly. I'm coming with you. I need to see this. The galaxy needs to see this. Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. Stay close. And whatever happens, remember, we're not monsters. We're just humans. And that's what makes us terrifying. When humans stop hiding, the main corridor of Station Nexus had transformed into a battlefield. Raiders in mismatched armor pushed forward, their weapons cutting down anyone who couldn't reach cover fast enough. The Crimson Talons were living up to their reputation for brutality, showing no distinction between security forces and civilians. Marcus and Zaraki moved through the maintenance tunnels, the human navigating with intimate knowledge of every pipe wire and service hatch. As they traveled, more humans emerged from the shadows, each carrying equipment that definitely wasn't standard for their supposed occupations. Marcus, a woman called out. It was Dr. Sarah Kim, who supposedly ran a small clinic on Level 5. She was now wearing combat armor she'd apparently been storing in her medical supplies. We've got 30 civilians trapped in the school sector. Raiders are trying to breach. Thompson's team? Marcus asked. En route, but they won't make it in time. Marcus's jaw tightened. Through the tunnel's thin walls, they could hear children crying. Without hesitation, he changed direction. They emerged behind the raiders, 14 Crimson Talons attempting to burn through the reinforced door protecting the school. The aliens were confident, laughing as they worked, unaware of the humans, emerging from concealed positions all around them. You know, Marcus said conversationally, causing the raiders to spin around. Humans have this saying about people who threaten children. The lead raider, a Corvan with cybernetic enhancements, sneered. And what's that, human? Marcus's expression was perfectly calm. We don't let them leave. What happened next would be debated in bars and military academies for years. 14, armed raiders against 6 humans who'd been pretending to be civilians. It should have been a massacre. It was. Just not the way the raiders expected. The humans moved with coordinated precision that spoke of years of training. They didn't fight like heroes from stories. They fought like predators protecting their pack. Efficient, brutal, and absolutely, without mercy for those who threatened the innocent. Zaraki watched Marcus take down 3 raiders with movements that seemed to blur. Not superhuman, but something more unsettling. He fought like someone who had accepted death and decided to make it expensive. In 43 seconds, it was over. The raiders were neutralized, the children were safe, and the humans were already moving to the next crisis point. "This is happening all over the station," Sarah reported, listening to her earpiece. "Every human on Nexus just activated." Through the station's windows, they could see something extraordinary happening outside. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers, and maintenance craft were engaging the raider fleet. But these weren't random defenders. They moved in formation, using tactics that military analysts would later identify as shadow wing maneuvers. "Thompson," Marcus called into his comm. "Status on the surprise?" "Oh, you're going to love this, boss," Thompson's voice crackled back. "Turns out I've been spending my free time upgrading the station's mining lasers. You know, as a hobby." The space around Station Nexus lit up as concealed weapon emplacements revealed themselves. Mining lasers that had been quietly modified into military-grade weapons opened fire on the raider fleet. The Crimson Talons, caught between the improvised defense fleet and the station's hidden weapons, began to falter. But the raid leader wasn't finished. The main Crimson Talon vessel, a heavily modified battlecruiser, powered up its primary weapon. A planet cracker, illegal in civilized space, capable of splitting Station Nexus in half. "They're going to destroy the entire station," Zaraki breathed. Marcus was already running, not away but toward the nearest docking bay. "Rodriguez, I need your shuttle." "Marcus, no," Sarah protested. "That's suicide." "It's necessary," Marcus replied. Zaraki followed him, her recording device capturing everything. In the docking bay, 36 humans had gathered, not just the ones who'd been hiding on the station, but others who'd arrived recently. Traders, passengers, even a tourist group. All human. All moving with the same purposeful determination. "Is this what you meant?" Zaraki asked. "About pack bonding?" Rodriguez, a stocky woman who'd been working as a shuttle pilot, was already powering up her craft. But it wasn't the basic shuttle it appeared to be. The hull opened to reveal weapons, and shielding that belonged on a military interceptor. "Every human on this station felt it," Marcus explained, strapping himself into the co-pilot seat. "The moment those raiders threatened the innocent, it doesn't matter that we're strangers. It doesn't matter that we tried to leave this behind. They threatened the pack. More shuttles and small craft launched from the station, all piloted by humans. The radio chatter was controlled, professional. These weren't civilians playing hero. These were veterans who'd remembered why they'd fought in the first place." "Shadow Wing, this is Phoenix Leader," a new voice crackled over the comm. "Heard. You could use some help." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile Zaraki had seen from him. "Phoenix Squadron. You're supposed to be dead." "Yeah, well, retirement was boring. Permission to engage? Weapons free. All units, protect the station." What followed was a display of piloting that defied physics, logic, and several laws of nature. The human pilots flew their improvised fleet directly at the battlecruiser, using maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart. They flew through debris fields, skimmed the station's shields, and performed synchronized attacks that looked more like a dance than combat. The battlecruiser's planet cracker fired, but not at the station. Thompson's mining lasers had damaged its targeting systems, causing it to fire wide. The beam of destruction passed harmlessly into space. "Now," Marcus commanded. Every human ship fired simultaneously, concentrating their attack on a single point. The battlecruiser's shields flickered, failed, and its hull began to breach. The raid leader's voice came over open channels, panicked and disbelieving. "This is impossible. You're just humans. Just traders and workers." "That's where you're wrong," Marcus replied, his voice carrying across all frequencies. "We're humans, who chose to be traders and workers. There's a difference." The battlecruiser exploded, its death illuminating the space around Station Nexus like a brief star. The remaining raider vessels fled, their courage broken by the display of coordinated human determination. As quickly as it had begun, it was over. Marcus landed the shuttle back in the docking bay where a crowd had gathered. Not just humans, but members of every species on the station. They stared at the returning defenders with expressions ranging from awe to fear to gratitude. The Brakari security chief approached, his scaled face unreadable. "You've all been lying to us, living among us under false pretenses." "We've been living," Sarah corrected, removing her helmet. "Just living, being normal people doing normal jobs." "But you're not normal," the chief insisted. "No," Marcus agreed. "We're human. We're capable of terrible things when pushed. But given the choice, we'd rather fix engines, heal the sick, teach children, and serve drinks. The galaxy doesn't need human soldiers. It needs human neighbors." Zaraki stepped forward, her skin shifting to patterns of determination. "I'm transmitting all of this to the Galactic Council. Every moment, every word." Marcus nodded. "Good. Let them see what we are. Not the myths, not the legends. Just people who refuse to let innocence suffer when we can act." A small Valoran child broke free from her parents and ran to Marcus, hugging his leg. "Thank you for saving us," she said in accented galactic standard. Marcus knelt down to her level. "You're welcome. But remember something important. We didn't save you because we're special. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. Anyone can choose to protect others. Even you, when you grow up." The child nodded solemnly and returned. To her parents, Station Nexus would never be the same. Word spread quickly through the galaxy about the humans who'd been hiding in plain sight. Not as sleeper agents or secret weapons, but as people trying to live normal lives who simply couldn't stand by when innocents were threatened. Some governments tried to recruit them. Criminal organizations tried to hire them. But most of the humans simply went back to their jobs. Marcus returned to fixing ships. Sarah went back to her clinic. Thompson continued maintaining the station's systems, though nobody complained anymore when he made improvements. 3 days later, Zaraki found Marcus in his workshop, elbow deep in an engine that had seen better days. "The council wants to give you all medals," she said. "We don't need medals," Marcus replied, not looking up from his work. "We need people to understand that we're not special forces waiting to be activated. We're just humans who remember what it means to protect each other. The galaxy sees you as heroes now." Marcus finally looked up, meeting her multifaceted eyes. "Then we failed. We don't want to be heroes. Heroes are extraordinary. What we did should be ordinary. Any species, any person, should be willing to stand up when innocents are threatened." Zaraki's skin shifted to a pattern Marcus had learned, meant deep thought. "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, humanity becomes the galaxy's guardian, and that burden will destroy us. We're not built to be everyone's protectors. We're built to be part of a community where everyone protects each other." She was quiet for a moment, then smiled, an expression her species had learned from humans. "My report to the council will reflect that. Not a story of human superiority, but of what any of us could choose to be." Marcus smiled back and returned to his work. Around them, Station Nexus hummed with life. Traders haggled, families shared, meals, children played in the corridors. It was normal, peaceful, and exactly what the humans had fought to preserve. In the end, that was the truth about humanity that the galaxy needed to understand. Not that humans were unstoppable warriors, but that they were people who would rather live in peace, who chose ordinary lives, but who would become extraordinary when those they'd chosen to live among were threatened. The mark that Zaraki had revealed wasn't just the scars on Marcus's chest. It was the mark every human carried, the choice between being a weapon and being a neighbor, and the profound hope that they'd never have to be the former again. But if they did, the galaxy now knew what would happen. Humans would stop hiding, not as conquerors or saviors, but as friends who refused to let evil win. And perhaps in seeing that, other species would find their own courage to stand when standing was needed. because that was the real human gift to the galaxy, not their strength but their example that anyone could choose to protect what mattered. The story would spread, be retold, embellished, and mythologized. But those who were there, who saw what really happened, would remember the truth. Humans weren't gods or monsters. They were something far more powerful. They were people who cared enough to act.